everybody. Welcome to Cozy Cards and Crystals. My name is Joanna, and today we are gonna talk about a collection comparison. So, my two big, huge collections that I have in my life and my love affairs, so to speak, are on the one side, as you can see, collecting card decks, tarot, oracle, Lenormand, everything like that. And on the other side of things are crystals and minerals. So I wanted to compare these two, talk with you guys about similarities, differences, the way they connect together. So in the end, the last point will be the things that I recognize about myself because of these two collections. So of course there will be timestamps below as always in my videos, so you can skip to the topic that you are most interested to see if you don't have time to watch the whole video. And first things first, the one person or the one video that inspired me, Aquamarine 18's channel, which I will have a link in the video description below as well. This one will be a little bit different, but it's still inspired by those two videos and those two ideas. So now let's start with the similarities. So for both of these topics and collections, my interest and starting to collect actually all started in my childhood. They still accompany me throughout my whole life, growing up until now, and today I'm 28 years old. So I spend a lot of time with both. Next similarity is both are visual objects to a degree. So with both of these, there is a visual component to them. With the cards, of course, there's the artwork, there's coloration, there is some bling as well, as you can see here with gilding and foiling. And as I said, the depictions, the artwork, the colors. So it's basically like a little art collection or gallery that you have, that you're holding in your hands, and you can just enjoy the artwork of the cards. And with crystals, of course, there's a visual component to those with the sparkles, the colors, the shapes, the rainbows, and everything. Those visual components are the things that draw me in, that I love as well, even though they're pretty superficial in a way and they're pretty surface level. But I mean, come on, we all love pretty things, and for me crystals and artwork in the cards are pretty things. I'm drawn to them, I want them, they make me happy to look at. And that's a point where both of these are similar. And I also bring things into my collection with both of these that are pretty, that I'm drawn to visually, that I love to look at. Next similarity, both are pretty niche things. So they're not like, I don't know, makeup or clothing where you can go in pretty much every mainstream shop and get some books or some movies or some makeup. Crystals and divination decks um, are pretty niche and are pretty hard to get. At least here in Germany, we don't have, or at least in the area where I live, there aren't any metaphysical shops and there aren't any crystal shops. Um, Next similarity, both have a spiritual or magical or woo side to them. With the cards, of course, it's more obvious, but also with the crystals, there are two communities. One community that is more interested in collection value, rarity, and the science factor of it, And the other one that is the metaphysical mineral community that is just collecting because of um, the the metaphysical properties and the healing aspects and working with them. And there are those in between, which I am actually, I consider both sides and I use them for metaphysical properties, but I also collect them and study the science aspect of it and find both things pretty fascinating and interesting. So there's that aspect. Both are pretty complex areas that connect different topics. So, with the tarot, for example, you can study pretty much a lot of things. Of course, tarot of itself, the history of tarot, the different systems, RWS, Marseille, Thoth, and all of that, where they are similar, where they are different, how it developed from a card game to a divination system, and all of that stuff. But there are so many different things that are linked to that system that you can study. You don't have to, but you can, like astrology, numerology, the four elements, symbology, Kabbalah, sacred geometry, and all of that stuff. So there are many, many different topics that are brought into one thing and span out from that, and that are all connected within the tarot cards that you can dive into, that can be standalone things that you can dive into separately and then connect all of them together in your tarot practice. Same thing with crystals and minerals. Like there is the whole science factor, like um, with them, how they are growing, how they are created, where they are found, what is rare, what is not, what are factors that play into pricing, and all of that stuff, gemology, geology, all of that stuff. But there is also um, like the energy of colors, for example, chakras that you can study. With some of them, like amethyst, you have a whole mythology story behind amethyst. Um, so you learn about that too. Of course, astrology, what signs are good with what crystals and all of that stuff. Sacred geometry, the shapes of how crystals are growing or the shapes that crystals um, can be polished or carved into as well, and what that creates in terms of energy and all of that stuff. And similar to that, um, both offer the ability to endless studies because they're so complex, because they connect all of these different topics that you can dive into on their own, but also because they're is a lot of different crystal varieties, a lot of different um, things there to learn. They're always discovering new varieties or minerals or discovering a new fact about a specific mineral that they weren't aware of before. So it's an ongoing thing, and there's no way that you're at a point in your crystal study or in your mineral study where you're like, now I know every crystal variety or mineral variety that is out there, and then I know everything that there is to know, as well as with a tarot and oracle decks. Um, and both things connect the supernatural, spiritual, metaphysical side with the natural, science, logical um, side. So, spirit with our earthly daily life, so to speak. Um, which I love about both of those. So both of these connect all of these two sides that are at first glance so different, but that are actually playing together in a really cool way. And the last similarity of these things is FOMO. So with the decks, especially it's with indie decks, of course, so the fear of missing out. And with crystals, you have the same thing, especially when it's not a polished one, but an actual raw crystal, because every crystal is so different. So now we come to the differences. So both of these are art. With the card decks, it's really obvious because those are art pieces that are created by the deck creators, which connect to the meaning of that specific card or depict the meaning of that specific card. So it's art created by humans. With crystals, they're art pieces for me as well because they are so, I mean, come on, they're super pretty, they're super intricate, they're perfect in terms of geometry, in terms of colors, and especially with polished pieces, they almost look like art pieces that were created by humans with the different patterns and layers and how the colors are combined. So crystals for me are art made by nature or by our earth without any human interference. So there's the difference. That one thing is art created by humans, the other thing is art created by nature without any human interference. Um, Another thing that I recognized is that I'm more picky or detail oriented when it comes to my crystals and minerals, and when I decide which one I want to get, than when it comes to decks, because I'm absolutely not a cardstock snob, for example, but I'm absolutely a snob when it comes to the quality of the crystals in terms of, especially with polished pieces, in terms of how good is the polish. But as well with natural pieces, I want them to be um, more complete and damage free in a way. Um, And if they have a ding or damage to them, which was done to them because of the mining process or after mining, I want to have a price that notices that. While with card decks, I'm like, if it's a thin, usual cardstock with a glossy finish, even with the super thin Llewellyn cardstock that a lot of people complain about, I'm totally fine with that. I don't need a rose petal finish. I don't need a super duper matte finish and black core and matte gilding and a thick cardstock. I don't need all of that. I'm happy if it's shuffleable and that's it. That I have different sorting systems. So minerals for me, the way I display them or I have sorted them is by their mineral family or their mineral group. So every quartz piece is in their own section. Then every feldspar piece is in a group in their own section and all of that stuff. With the decks, I don't sort them by type, so it's not like every Lenormand deck and every RWS based deck and every Marseille deck and every Oracle deck has their own section. And I group them together by that. But I group them more together by season and reason that I have to use those decks. Like example, all of my ancestor and past life decks are together. All of my moon reading decks are together. Then with minerals, I'm leaning more in the collector's values. So for me with minerals, at least in the stage that I'm now in, where I have all of the base minerals and beginner minerals out there, I pay more attention to the collector's value. That is also where the thing comes in with the polish quality or wanting crystals that haven't any damage on them. So the rarity of the crystal type, or if it's a pretty common crystal variety, more so if it's from a location that is pretty unusual for that crystal variety, or the size is pretty unusual, or the formation, or the color, or the mineral combination, or anything like that. While with decks, that is not a factor that I consider. And then with minerals, they're more like a collector, decoration, visual kind of thing for me, while the decks are leaning more into or towards being a useful tool. So I don't have any decks in my collection that I don't use or that I know right at the start that I won't use that deck. While with crystals, I have some that I'm using, especially in jewelry or with palm stones and little tumbles. You can carry them around easily. But there are also huge specimens that I won't use because of their size, their weight, their intricacy. Um, but that doesn't matter to me or that doesn't annoy me in a way. So now on to the connections of these two things. So both are study material for me. Both are topics that I love to fill my free time with, to study, to dive deep into, to explore the different topics, and to learn even more than I know now. It is fun to me to do so. I love to study. I love to learn and expand my knowledge. And these two topics always have fascinated me. They still are fascinating and interesting to me, and I love to learn new things about them. Both are tools. So they're tools to connect to different energies, beings, or spiritual practices, like, for example, ancestor work. I have specific decks that I use for ancestor work, but there are also different crystals that help me to connect or that I use with ancestor work, like ammonite, for example. Um, or moon readings. I have specific decks that are attached to the full moon and the new moon readings. And of course, I have some crystals like white moonstone for the full moon readings and black moonstone for the new moon energies that help me connect to these energies and work with those energies. Both are tools for self development, like with shadow work or self love and acceptance. There are crystals, like, for example, rose quartz, with helping me with self acceptance and self love. And there are decks that help me do that, shadow work as well, like obsidian, for example, that I will use with shadow work, as well as some decks. Both are tools that help me tap into different energies or states of being. Like, for example, if I'm really anxious and I want to calm down, there's a light that I will use for that. And there are specific decks that I can use for those times. Also, maybe if I'm in a reading and I'm asking the question, what energy should I be, um, or is more useful to me right now, or in what energy should I tap into for my daily readings, for example, and there comes the Queen of Wands or any other thing. I will choose a crystal based off of that reading or of that card that will help me or that I associate with that energy of that specific card and will help me tap into that energy. Um, And then, of course, they're teaming up with readings. Like, I'm using crystals to clean my reading space, to clean my decks. I'm also using crystals to protect me or shield me. And then also, I will have some crystals around me that help me open up my third eye and crown chakras, my connection to my higher self, my intuition, but also that will help me stay grounded and help me with clarity and focus, like clear quartz for clarity, fluorite for focusing and concentration, amethyst for your third eye and crown chakra opening. And now to the last part, which is self reflection. So, what I have recognized about myself or what I've learned about myself through going through these similarities, differences, and how I use these two collections. And what I love about those two collections is one, I'm a visual person. everything that I find pretty, that is in my type of art style, in my type of color palette that I love, that is shiny, that is blingy. Um, I'm drawn to it and I want it. Then the other thing that I found out is that I'm a person that is based more in theory and study than in practical action, which I knew before I did this whole collection comparison, because I have two left hands, as we say in Germany, which means that when it comes to creating some practical things, um, like I can't even, like the most complex thing that I can do is hang up a picture on my wall, and that's basically it. And even that will probably be, by the time I have finished, not really straight and geometrical, but still look chaotic. So that's me. But I love theory, I love reading, writing, learning, studying. I love that stuff. And also think about things where there isn't a right or wrong answer to that as well. So I'm all about that. And these two collections, because they're such complex topics, really underline that. Then it seems like that I'm attached to things that accompany me throughout my whole life. And I know that I'm not a person that loves change, or loves new things. I get really easily anxious when I know that there is a new thing coming into my life, or a new life chapter starting, like a new job or something like that, but also with more smaller things. I love to have my routine. Um, I love the things that I'm used to because I know what I can expect. And so these two things really underline that, because they're both things that I connected, that I have explored during my childhood, and that I'm still holding on to them. But not just because of that history, or because of the past, or because that I'm used to those, but they still are fun to me. That's also a thing, but they still underline the fact that I'm attached to my routines and the things that I know. Then I love when things can't be explained fully, but still have a science aspect to them, um, which proves, at least to some extent, how it works, or makes them more tangible for me. So I love the unexplainable. I love those things because then I can make up my own mind about them. I can think about them endlessly. I'm totally fascinated by those things. But I still love when there is at least an aspect to them that is, or that was explained through science, or that is more tangible, more realistic in a way. And these two things do that, as I said earlier. So that was my self-reflection about these collections and the collection comparison. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was interesting to you, maybe to even to get to know me, but also maybe to inspire you to take a closer look, or to analyze the things that you are drawn to, that you study, that you spend your free time with, and how they are similar, how they are different, and what you can learn about yourself from those things that you are drawn to or that you are interested in. I think that is a really interesting and different exercise to do. And so I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. What are the collections that you have in your life? What are the topics that you're interested in? Did you find this one interesting? Let me know down in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please feel free to do so. It's completely free for you, but it helps you to not miss any of the other videos that are soon to come here on my channel. So thank you for watching, and until next time, Bye.